Hello, and welcome to Not Very Scary Stories. This is another personal episode, and this will be our last episode of the month of October, and potentially our last until next October. This story is from a close streamer friend of mine, Semphis, about the demon that may have been following him, or perhaps something else. If you're a fan of competitive FPS games and Rocket League, be sure to check out his YouTube. That's CENFUSS. Also, if you're on YouTube for this video, there will be a special treat in the form of photo evidence of one of his stories. Be sure to leave a sub, follow, or whatever you can on whatever platform you're on. Also, be sure to leave a review so people will know to listen in as well. I'd like to thank you guys for the support thus far on all platforms that you can find us on, including YouTube. This has been a tremendous experience and had a blast telling you these stories for this month. I'd also like to remind anyone that if you have any scary stories or experiences you'd like to share, email me at darkskyGameNews@gmail.com and tell me how you'd like to be credited. I'm Zenith Darksky, and I'll be your host tonight. Enjoy. The first time Semphis saw the girl in the white dress. This story begins as early as when Semphis lived in his home in a town called Dover, Arkansas, in 4th grade. On a Thursday, Semphis and his family had left their house to meet with his grandmother, 30 minutes away or so. As they arrived, they noticed that no car seemed to be there, so Semphis' father asked if he could knock on the door to see if anyone was home. He went to the front door and knocked, but he heard and saw no one. Semphis knocked again, but this time, he peeked through the little window in the door and saw a little girl with a white dress and black hair. But there's more. Semphis didn't just see the girl, he saw her face. He describes that she looked as if she had black eyeballs, but at the same time you could see through her head as if she was slightly transparent. She was pale, but not quite that pale. As Semphis describes the layout of the house while looking in, he says that when you look through the door you can see a hallway that split at the end, and he saw her walk from one side to the other while looking at him slowly. Terrified, he ran back, and his father noticed it looked as if he'd seen a ghost. Semphis just replies that he thinks he did. He then described the horrifying situation to his father, so his parents texted the other family members and they met up somewhere else later. Come Saturday, Semphis went back to the house. His uncle, who was at their family barbecue, claimed he was sleeping the previous night in the room that the girl was walking to, on the left side of the hallway. His uncle awoke with a weird feeling in the middle of the night. He then claimed that he saw a girl, described as the one that Semphis had seen, allegedly walked through the bedroom door and looked at him momentarily, and then walked through the door to the bathroom. So, then his uncle tried to be logical, so he got up, assuming it could actually be somebody, and opened the door to the bathroom, and nothing was there. Semphis wasn't the only one that saw the girl, but fortunately, he never saw her again. Then, while Semphis was in 6th or 7th grade, he had moved into a new house in Pottsville, Arkansas. This house was very creepy, 2-bedroom, 1-bath house that just looked weird and creepy. The house in general, in terms of layout and just looks, just gave off creepy vibes, claimed Semphis. His first year here in the home and at school was fairly normal. But the next year, Semphis lived here a woman got out of her car on the highway near his house and was hit by a semi almost directly in front of their house. The impact killed her instantly. After that tragedy, Simphus's father claims that he often felt someone sit beside him on his bed as he would be laid down. So out of fear and anger he would swing, but he would always hit nothing. Supposedly this didn't just happen a couple times, but every time there was nothing there. One morning though, Simphus woke up fairly early in his bedroom. He looked to the left out of paranoia and seemed to notice an eyeball in his sheetrock wall about 3 feet up from the ground. He gets up to investigate, and it does indeed look like the shape of an eye, but then it blinked. Startled, he got up next to it to make sure no light was hitting the wall, creating some kind of illusion, and it was still there. So he looked into it, and he describes that it was greenish, but it felt as if he could see forever into it. Simphus leaves the room to tell his mother. He badly wants to show her out of fear that no one would believe him, so he explained it to her, and she immediately sat back down and did not want to look at it. He urged her to look, but he walked back into his room alone, and the eyeball was gone. 8 years later, Simphus is remembering these events very vividly. For this next story, let me give you a quick setup. This is a night where Simphus was about 17, in the 11th grade. Simphus and his friend were playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 at about 10 p.m. online. It wasn't a school night, though, he clarifies. Simphus's father was in the living room. Now at this point, the whole family had heard what sounded like their names being called throughout the house, but it would always sound like another member of the family. They'd ask each other and quickly find that no one said their names, and they'd go back to normal. Sometimes Simphus would hear his name, but no one would be there at all. So this night, Simphus heard his name and went to his father, who actually did call out to him. He enters the living room to find his panic-stricken father holding his phone, so Simphus could see what looked like a picture, potentially. A picture of a face. But his father would turn the phone off and on, and the face would persist. It would still be there as if it was burned into the phone. A pale face with dark features. In a moment of clarity, Simphus took a picture of it with his phone. He then asked his father what exactly happened. His father claimed that he was sitting on the couch and watching TV when he heard something call his name off to the right. There was nothing there but a wall. Next thing he knew, he heard someone say, "Hey!" right next to his ear. Out of fear, he jumped up. Being tired of this, in fear he yells, "What?" Then to his surprise, he heard something to his right again yell, "Watch this!" The face was then seemingly burned into his screen, and that's when he got Simphus to come check it out. Terrified, Simphus returned to his Xbox Live party with his friend and asked if he could come stay the night with him, and so he did. He came back the next day, and the face was unfortunately still on his father's phone and would not come off. Phone off, battery out, still wouldn't fix it. It was a work phone, so his father reasonably broke the phone and threw it away and just got a replacement. The last event to happen to Simphus while he was in school that actually startled him is that on one morning in the 12th grade, his father had left for work. Simphus's mother was still at work on night shift, so she wouldn't be there to wake Simphus for school. Simphus would set alarms for 6:30 so he could get to school on time. One night, he forgot to set an alarm on his phone. He was sleeping soundly in his bed. Now, Simphus is usually paranoid and claims to be a light sleeper, so if his door opens, he wakes up. Well, this morning, he wakes up and looks at his door and notices his door is cracked. He notices a head peeking through, but her hair was over her face. Simphus just assumed that this was his mother, perhaps out of the shower or something. The figure said, "Wake up, you're gonna be late for school." Not thinking about it, Simphus laid back down for a few seconds to get his last bit of rest, almost thinking of not going to school that day. He then shot up, remembering he's alone in the house. So he shoots up and through the door, to the window to confirm that he's correct. He is alone in the house. He runs back to his bedroom, gets dressed, and runs to his vehicle to get to school. Simphus and his family still occasionally heard voices after this event, but nothing quite so bad as these events. Now, paranormal events had been happening to Simphus's family for a while. He claims that he thinks what started all of this was that his father and uncles had been playing with a Ouija board when they were younger. After a bit of this, they obviously got scared of the Ouija board and took it to throw it out at a dumping site. But when they returned home, the Ouija board was back at home as well. So in frustration, they took it outside and threw gas on it and torched it. While it was on fire, they claimed that the Ouija board sounded like it was screaming, high-pitched noises coming from the Ouija board. This was the last time they had seen it. Simphus thinks something's attached to them now due to this event, and some believe burning something won't get rid of any spirits attached to it, but release them. One final story, though, before I leave my listeners for the season and for Halloween. When Simphus's grandfather died around 2019, Simphus was in his early 20s. Simphus and his family journeyed to his grandfather's church for the viewing. Everyone had gone to the back of the church to eat for a break. Simphus went outside to get some air and process feelings and talk to family members. He came back in and began to have a weird feeling. So, as he walks up to his mother, he looks to his left because that's where he feels this paranoia emanating from. He scans around, only to see the face. The face from the phone. The face from the phone seems to be engraved into the wall. He points it out to his father, and his father notices a face too. Simphus then explains that it looks like the face from the phone. And instantly, it clicks on his father's face. The same thing, but 1 to 2 hours away from their house, is on the wall of this church. After seeing the face, Simphus and his parents immediately left. After Simphus's family moved out of that house, they haven't experienced really anything of this nature since, but something definitely seems to be following Simphus's family. Is it harmful, or is it simply just seeking attention?